Lake monsters. When I was a kid, I spent a massive chunk of my formative years in an area of British Columbia called the Okanagan. Essentially, it was basically a bunch of different cities that all kind of surrounded a massive lake known as Okanagan Lake. Now, this lake is said to be home to a lake serpent known as the Ogopogo. It's impossible to avoid there. Dudes everywhere, selling merch, bringing in tourists, you know, the usual cryptozoological MO. And because of this, I went through a period where I was just obsessed with Ogopogo. Read every book I could find, scoured the internet for sightings and photos, hung out at the lake all the time just hoping to see something. I was basically one of those like conspiracy theory nuts who had like the red string covering a wall of clues. So when I stumbled upon 1995's Magic in the Water, a movie clearly heavily inspired by the Ogopogo, I shit myself. Man, I must have watched this movie so much, I probably wore out the tape. So let's see if it still holds up, shall we? It doesn't. It just doesn't. The movie kicks off with what appears to be a drunk guy getting eaten. And I'm not gonna lie, when I was little, this scene always scared the absolute balls out of me. The creepy, dark, quiet lake, the calmness of it. This is supposed to be a kid's movie, but it starts off like Jaws or some shit. Our story revolves around a radio DJ therapist talk show host guy named, I'm not joking, Jack Black, who gets forced by his ex-wife to take his two kids on a vacation to a small Canadian town called Glenorchy, which sounds like some sort of a sex move involving food. Either way, a lake monster named Orky lives there. And as was a staple of 90s movies, for some reason, the father is just too busy working to give a shit about his kids and leaves them to their own devices. I was born in the 90s. I don't even know my dad. We were just built different. Shout out to all my fellow abandoned 90s kids. Hell yeah. The two kids are played by a young Joshua Jackson. You know him. He doesn't really need an introduction. But the girl, this is interesting. So this is Ashley, played by Sarah Wayne. And the reason why this is interesting is that aside from this movie and some obscure-ass FMV PC game called Piper that looks horrifying just based on the box art, Sarah hasn't been in anything since. She just kind of vanished off the face of the earth. And if you try to look her up, you just end up finding Sarah Wayne Callies from The Walking Dead. Even the picture when you Google this movie shows the wrong Sarah Wayne. And it's not like she was a bad actress or anything, quite the contrary. As dumb as this movie is, Sarah is actually one of the better parts about it.
Guess I better find a place to sleep, safe from wild animals and highway perverts.
She very likely could have had a career, but nothing. It's fucking weird, man. So the guy at the beginning didn't actually get eaten by Orky. Instead,
my body was inhabited by Orky.
Oh God! See, now we're into it. Okay,
Orky.
Here we go.
I told you about Orky, huh? Did I say I said?
He was
I did, huh?
in my body.
yeah, so Orky likes to crawl inside people and take over their bodies, and this is a whole subplot. Orky does this shit so much that there's a goddamn support group for people who Orky popped into and made go batshit insane. You know, for kids. And then there's also this really weird plot device of Ashley here having like an unlimited supply of Oreos, like it's a thing. I mean, look at this shit, the kid's basically an Oreo mogul. And I mean, don't get me wrong, every kid in the world wishes they had an unlimited supply of Oreos, but I mean, still. So Ashley decides to leave some Oreos on the dock for Orky. And the next day she comes back and Orky has somehow managed to lick only the cream out of the middle and nothing else. Look, Orky looks like this. How the fuck is that opening up tiny ass Oreos and licking out the center? It makes no sense, man. Instead, I like to think there's like some creepy ass bastard hanging out somewhere in the woods that just really loves Oreos. To her, it's a magical serpent, but in reality, it's just some dude that smells like balls and bologna. Probably lathered that shit up with his tongue. Orky farts. Delicious. I bet you can taste that. The worst part about this movie is just how slow it is. Almost the entire movie is just Josh and Ashley hanging out while their dad tries to fuck the therapist, and sometimes the water moves. Until Orky possesses their father and suddenly he starts digging holes like that crackhead in Breaking Bad, and then all of a sudden wants to be with his kids. Good on Orky, man. Fixing families one day at a time, I guess. I mean, he makes everyone he possesses go nutty, but hey, win some, you lose some. Peppered in, though, are glimpses of chuckle-worthy scenes here and there.
Why'd we even rent the damn boat?
You're right, Josh. We'll turn the keys in tomorrow. They're on the kitchen table.
No, that's not what I mean. This is seriously affecting my development.
Joshua, look. He's having fun.
Dad, he's a moron.
Turns out an evil corporation is dumping chemicals in the water. A 90s animal movie about a power-hungry, corrupt business killing the environment? Pinch me, I must be dreaming.
Well?
We got trouble, boss.
Now that's the face you make when you gambled on a fart after a night of binge drinking and you lost. So they build a giant mechanical orchid to try and convince the town that it was all a hoax and that there's no reason that they can't dump chemicals in the lake. I'd say they went a little overboard though, because this thing looks like a goddamn warship. Just look at the inside of it. Good lord, it's got a flamethrower. What the fuck? I'm like, why does it have a flamethrower? I mean, I'm not really complaining because it's awesome, but like, why? So the kids end up sinking to the bottom of the lake in the robot. It's horrifying. Yeah, there's an Asian kid now. Honestly, I don't know why he's even there. And then finally, we get a real glimpse of Orky, and I'm sure this moment was supposed to come across as like mystical and magical, but it scared the shit out of me. Fuck everything about that, man, that's not cool. The Orky animatronic isn't bad at all. I mean, it looks a tad derpy, whatever, but it only appears for like 2 whole minutes, and then it just dies. And that's it. Again, this is a movie that's supposed to be directed at kids and families, that's marketed on the poster as having a monster in it, and the big payoff was 2 minutes of a monster that looks like that thing from Super Mario 64. Hell yeah, dude, I love it! In the very last shot of the movie, the therapist dips her leg into the water and... Damn. Bet Orky showed her how he got that cream out of those Oreos, cause bruh, that sounded like it felt good. So that's Magic in the Water. Is it the worst movie ever made? No, but it's definitely slow, and it kind of feels like the director was trying to capture some of the Steven Spielberg magic, but with a fraction of the budget, and he just didn't quite hit the mark. All I can tell you is that even as a kid, I was disappointed. I wanted a damn lake monster. If they had used the Orky animatronic more, maybe it could have been done better. Maybe it would have been more fondly remembered. Considering it only made like 2.6 million in its entire theatrical run worldwide, I think it's safe to say barely anyone ever saw this. Hell, I didn't even remember it existed until the day that I decided to do this review. So, here's to you, Magic in the Water.